Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and I'm here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC and is full of all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and perspectives that we can take on in order to live a more reasonable life. When I talk about living a reasonable life, all I mean is living a life in which we're not asking other people to change for us. It's not reasonable. Hey, that's my cat, Luke. JK's joining me right off the bat. Go on. How's it going, JK?
I'm okay. So I didn't want to do this, but I have to.
What's going on?
Nothing. So I told you about like my thing about being perceived younger. And one of the things that I realized, I don't want to cry, is that, and it happens a lot, like it really does. And it's not a vanity thing. It happens a lot just in general. And I started looking at it and going back and back and back. And, I didn't realize it until actually this morning. And I'm trying to say this with crying. It goes back to when I was really young and just remembering if I was just older, this wouldn't happen. This wouldn't be, this person, this wouldn't be happening to me. If I was just older, people wouldn't be able to hurt me. And, anyway, that's basically what it goes back to. But then I was like, oh, yeah, well, I'm okay. You're okay, But then I said, you're making this up. And I keep telling myself, you're making this up. And then you feel like I want to run away. And that's why I kind of have to come up here and talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't run. I'm not running. Where am I running to? Nowhere. Anyway, that's that.
So, yeah, when we engaged yesterday and you were like, she doesn't look 30. And I was like,
what the fuck is she talking about?
well, I don't know if I received that. Did I receive that this morning? Or no, I received it yesterday. And I received the Groundhog Day thing this morning when I got it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that you had a thing with being perceived younger.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
Surprise to both of us.
But that's see, so once again, congratulations on your graduation. Because once we get rid of that like low hanging fruit, right? Once we get rid of that big trauma or that big block or trigger, what happens is other things start to pop up. We start to see ourselves at a more intricate place. When I was working on the furnace, one of the first times I worked on the furnace last year, right? All I did for some time was look at it. And I just started, because, like the first time you open the hood of a car, it's just like overwhelming.
Oh, I get what you're saying entirely. Like I do. And it's funny because I do pick up on subtle things where I'm like, hey, good morning. Like that, where it's like, why did I pick up on that? Because I remember when I heard that, I said, I laughed or something, but I remember thinking to myself, is that really a compliment? And that, whatever that picture was what triggered that memory of that conversation. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember then thinking it was interesting. I was like, why even, who cares? And I kind of went on back then. I remember that. But the fact that I remember it is interesting.
That's the thing, right? Like it's
and that's the part that got me. That why are you remembering it?
Right.
Yeah.
That which you remember, that which causes you to reel, that which causes you to think about something in a specific way, that which
Yeah.
excites or elicits an expression or a response that isn't calm or
Well, it's
isn't
balanced,
just
right?
yeah,
It's
it
one
isn't
way or the
balanced.
other.
Right. You're feeling a certain way about this. You want
Hmm.
a thing, you don't want a thing, you know. And
Or
I think
you're
I was
even
talking
questioning it not in a general perspective, not in a place of observation. You're
right.
questioning it and you feel bad about it. There's judgment around that. So why are you judging this moment? Why are you judging yourself? Why are you concerned if something's a compliment or not? It doesn't matter. And
Right.
it really doesn't matter to me. And so that's what triggered me to start looking at it. And anyway, I
And
had a
that and
dream
that
last
idea
night that kind of helped me to like bring through some of this stuff, and it kind of tied it together a little bit. But I remember that feeling very distinctly, and
well,
I
I,
can
I can I can imagine that like you for many years, if you were just older, you wouldn't have to be at the behest of everybody around you.
yeah, and I think it's more specific, um a more specific event that
Yeah.
that happened that that started. Like I went pretty far back and I was able to find, I don't know everything that happened, but
No.
I remember being very vulnerable and being very small and being unable to defend myself and
Right.
just having to submit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, sweetie.
that part is like it just, and I remember just thinking, when you get older, if you're just a little bit older, this wouldn't happen. When you get older, and I can go back, like I remember being, before I was 10, I remember I used to drive my bike around. I had a bike with a banana seat and streamers and a little basket in front. I loved it. But I used to go and drive around the block,
Yeah.
over and over again, and just say, when I get a car, I'm getting out of here. When I get a car, I'm getting out of here. I'm just going to drive straight, because I had no concept about what driving was even like. And I
Right.
said, I'm just going to go straight until they can't find me anymore and stuff like that. Like, it's just, I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping
Yeah.
for vanity. um,
Well, that's the,
anyway.
like that's, once we start to unpack all of this, right? We start looking at it. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
you open the thing and it's overwhelming. You open the car hood and it's overwhelming. But eventually, as you're looking at it, as it's running, as you start to get familiar with it. So that's all that's happening. You're getting familiar with yourself and things are coming up. And that's going to happen for the rest of you started something that
I
maybe
told
you can
you.
stop, but I don't know. But we had a
Yeah.
conversation before
I
we.
know. Yes, I know. I know. You put your disclaimer out there, man. I got it.
But that's the, like, and the thing is that you have these tools now that you can utilize, and you have all of these things that,
Yeah, and I don't.
and you're not running.
No, I'm not, and I didn't, and I think that's part of why I came up and I shared,
Yeah.
mostly because I don't want to run, and the feelings are going to be there, right? I'm
Yeah.
going to say,
Mm-hmm.
my defense mechanism that I've relied on is going to be run away, is going
Right.
to be, this didn't happen, this isn't real, this isn't real. And it fits into a lot of stuff I've been looking at lately, the
Yeah.
idea of disillusionment, the idea of, having, figuring out what stories I've told myself, even just my identity of being cold, and what I told myself about that, and that
Right.
all these things that I've believed as truth that aren't, and I'm letting them go little by little. And now I don't feel, like a couple of months ago, I might have felt a lot more overwhelmed. I probably would have shut this down and
Oh
told
yeah. Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
you're just being emotional. You just had a bad dream. You just had a blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
You're making it up. But I'm like, I know I'm not, I know. And
No.
regardless of if I am or not, it's a real feeling for me that I have to deal with either way.
Right.
Right.
And
So,
what I love is that you're facing this, and it, like, everybody around you can be like, oh, you're being told you're young, how nice, and oh, you're being told, like, like there is something about that you're being like, but that's not my experience.
no, it's
And
totally
to
different
know
than,
your experience. And that's the same thing about when I would say something to the effect of, like, I have nothing to live for. I'm
yeah,
saying that from a very specific understanding of myself. But other people might be hearing it from their perspective and not able to wrap their head around what we're saying, because what you're saying is specifically for you and what
yep,
you're understanding. And then you can go out and you don't have to look for, there is no way you would find somebody to pay to help you get through this. This is just your work. You know
yes.
what I mean? Nobody knows your experience, and that's at the core of so much that we've talked about and so much that Tao is, where it's just like, no, you approach this from your perspective. And when you do that, you start to really gain a deep trust and faith in yourself rather than those things around you, rather than the belief that you're too young to
Yeah.
understand. You're too young to take care of yourself. You're too young to go out. You're too young to make a decision.
All the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, I don't, like when it came up, and I don't run away from the stuff that comes up. Some stuff I can't deal with it in that moment, but I
Right.
acknowledge it and I put it in my pocket for a little bit later.
Right.
I know, because I know it's not going to go away. I wasn't expecting what came out to be what it was. Like, it never is. It never fucking is. Like, I always like, oh, I know what that is. I never do. It's
No,
never that.
no, no,
And
never.
never. And I don't, always and never and like all that stuff. I'm not a big
Hmm.
believer in all that, but
Right.
that
Yeah.
one is really kind of a never. Like, I never get it 100%, because on the surface, I could, like, recent experiences of that are very, they're not as impactful. But the
Right.
further I went back, the harder that hit,
Hmm.
and that was it. Just that idea. And it was
And
kind of, it's good. It was good though that I picked up on it, and like I said, I don't run away. I try not to run away intentionally anyway from the stuff I'm presented with. Um,
because the low hanging fruit is gone,
mhm,
nothing is going to be as obviously, like, this is more subtle.
mhm,
This affects you in a more in a more subtle way than the stuff that we kind of went through, that low hanging fruit that was just bugging you all the time. This is going to
mhm,
come up less often. It's going to not affect you as deeply. It's not going to take you off the rails when you do experience it. And all of these things are still influences under which you're living. However, they're not so intense. And when they're not so intense, we might be like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. But when you get rid of your low-hanging fruit, that thing that wasn't a big deal, it's kind of a big deal now, because that's the thing. That's the thing we have to heal from, because there's always more to heal from.
yeah, and looking at it from that perspective, that I didn't feel like, is it uncomfortable? Yeah. Like, remember I told you, I don't know, maybe a week ago or something, like I felt like my heart was breaking. Well, that
Yeah.
came back
Mm-hmm.
really hard this morning. Like, I felt my heart breaking.
Yeah.
And, and I was like, oh, okay. It's okay. You're okay. Everything's okay. Like, I believed in myself that I could navigate whatever the feelings were. I was
Absolutely.
able to kind of sit with my emotion I said, okay, this is what it is. We'll deal with it and it'll get easier. This morning, you feel like crying, and it was funny because like I start, then I'm going to drop off in a minute.
Yeah.
Um,
You can come back up, of course.
okay, I'll go and come back.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big deal when you start recognizing the next thing. Because, I mean, does that mean you're completely done with the things, the low-hanging fruit? Maybe, maybe not. But it's like you are becoming increasingly more aware. And that awareness is what's going to guide you to whatever's next, and that faith in yourself and that understanding that, deep inside, the work you need to do. And it will continue to present itself as you continue to mature.
And that's the thing, though, is like, the first thing in my head is like, oh, shit, you have a deadline today. You don't really need to be dealing with this. And I took a deep breath when, like, because I start the chaos. Like, I start adding in
It
all
starts.
this other stuff. The wind picks up, like, all the things that always happen. But I'm able to catch it when it's just a little bit, like it's nice
Yeah.
breeze. And I'm like, what are you doing? And,
Yeah, well, what's
and it's,
that?
yep. And it's just a refocus, right? Because I'm trying to get the attention off of what really hurts. Because the
Right.
other stuff doesn't matter. There's always a fucking deadline, especially
Right.
where
There's
I
always
work.
going to
Like,
be a
it's always a
deadline.
fucking deadline.
And you'll get
So,
it done. And you'll
and
do it.
and it'll be fine. And,
Yeah.
and if I don't, then I'll say I didn't get it done. And I going through, I don't know what's going to happen then, but we'll see.
Uh-huh.
But in my head, like, cause I'm traveling this week and, all this stuff, I start with all the other things, right? The story or whatever I was
Yeah.
going to tell
And
myself
it's like, well, I
why I
don't
didn't
have
need to
time
deal
and
with
I don't
this.
have, this
Yeah.
can't be. And
And I took a deep breath and I stopped myself and I actually did pick a number and,
Oh,
I
what
have
is it?
no fucking clue how it relates. Like when I picked the number, I was like, I don't
What
know
was the
what
number?
any of it. 66.
66.
Yes. I don't understand. So I was
Well,
like,
let's do it together.
yeah, well, when I was thinking about it, I said, fuck, this means I do really have to share this, huh? Because you don't know what this means and you know where to find out where maybe it means. So anyway,
All right. Leading
go,
from behind.
go ahead.
The first thing that comes to mind is the one that's behind is the youngest. When you were young, you were the last person. You did not have any autonomy. That's behind. Everybody else is in front of you. Everybody else has more power over even your life than you do. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm going to go ahead and read it now, and we're going to see what's here. There are great benefits to humility. All rivers flow to the sea because its position is lower. You didn't see this? You don't see how this relates?
No. Listen, I was in it. Let me. Don't judge me.
So I'm going to continue reading it, but are you seeing it now?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Let me go ahead and read it. Let me finish. The master emulates by always being a servant. Inspiring from below, leading from behind. No one is oppressed. They find their own way. The river, like rivers, so too will the people flow to the master. I'm getting teary-eyed. Like, oh, this is so perfect. Never feeling oppressed or as if they are in danger. The whole world supports her and keeps her in their hearts. Without a reason or desire to compete, she is never met with competition. I can't see anything in this moment. I can't see anything but a little girl in a pink dress when I read that. There's great benefits to humility. There's nothing more humble than a child because they're open to learning from everybody around them. All rivers flow to the sea because its position is lower. I mean, they're short children, but they don't position themselves in the family. They don't vie for position, especially in your position, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's no one to vie for position 4. You just know that you are under your parents and then the babysitter and everybody else, right? Like
Hmm.
and it's you want that power. You want to be able to make decisions for yourself. However, it is the humility that you had as a kid, right? The thing is there's a difference between humility, and I said before self-effacement, but right now I want to be like to being a servant, right? To being forced to do things for other people, being forced to, and this is where the master emulates this by always being a servant. See, you pushed away the idea of being young, and now all of those traits of being young, being a servant, being humble, inspiring from below. How many times do we say things from the mouths of babes, things like that? Like children lead from behind. They're not trying to lead you, not trying to move. They're not trying to teach you, but they inspire you, right? When you see children, they inspire you, and they're open to inspiring you without having all of that, without having all of that baggage of I am inspiring you. They don't know they're doing it, but they do it.
Yeah, that's humble.
Yeah. No one is oppressed. They find their own way. When you interact with a child, they're not trying to oppress you.
No, and so often we find ourselves, and I'm guilty of this as well. Like when your child's acting up, why are you doing this to me? Like
Right.
I hear, and they're not doing anything. They're just
Right.
being.
Right.
And that is it's a funny kind of chord because I don't say it much anymore, but I said it a lot to my daughter. I remember saying it to her, and it was something that came up for me. Um,
Yeah.
as I did some work with her is, why was I was victimizing, but she's a baby,
Yeah.
she's a
Yeah.
kid. She's just doing
And there
her.
you
Like
are,
that's what they
like
do.
weaponizing your words, right?
Yeah.
Against your child. Like, what? Why would you do that? It's not, of course you don't know any better, and you had to learn, and this is something that she, signed on to be subject to as well. So it's not about you, but it's like when you get to think about it, when you get to really start, like, and this comes down to loving yourself.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, because like finding that too, that there's a connection. I mean, it's all connected, right? Even though they're isolated pieces to
Absolutely.
whatever puzzle, there's a connection. Like there's a connection to the way I felt and the way I treated my daughter. There's a
Right.
connection to, all of it. I mean, because I'm still one being, but, and then part of a bigger being, but
Well,
it's
no.
just, the idea of like, I can see the connection to this, to some of the other stuff that, we worked
Right.
on. And, that specific, being, looking at it and weaponizing my words to my own kid,
Right.
you know?
And but then that, you don't know. Once again, it's about your daughter's experience for her. You don't know what that is. She might not
No,
even
but
remember
that was
that.
my experience because
Right.
I
But
don't like that
right.
I did like that feeling of that where I was making myself a victim.
That's
that
right.
is not hers, it's mine and my experience and how that hurt me. Because
Right.
when I looked back and then having to look at it and say, why is that relevant for you? Why did you
Right.
do that? Why does that hurt when you think about doing it? Because if it didn't hurt me or it didn't make me feel something, then it didn't really matter anyway, right? But
Right.
I was
And
talking
then
about my experience and how it links back to this and
and then
my
that
behaviors.
right. And all of that is so that, like this is sort of like when I used to I think there's a relationship here. When I used to get mad at everybody for not paying attention when they were driving, this is like you're mad at your daughter but what you're doing is trying to point out that you have control now. Because when
Yeah.
you were a kid, you didn't have control, and this child doesn't have control. And even though it's not a conscious thing, you're trying to gain that control.
Yeah.
You know, and possibly you're trying to gain that control over your daughter because you want to feel in any way possible that you have grown up, because it was never an age. It was never it was just like when I get older. And
Yeah, it
so
wasn't an age.
older,
There was no, it
and
could be anything.
right, if that, and this is why we love more all the time, because we say things like, oh, if I just had more money, if I was just older, if I was just smarter. Well,
Here's a penny. Like,
right. There's
how do you
no
feel?
end. There is absolutely no end to
Yeah.
that argument, right? You have opened it up to be unhappy,
Forever.
even no matter how much you have,
Yeah.
no matter how much control you have over your life, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much love you have, no matter and then when you recognize that's holding you back, that's an influence under which you're living, well, then you can start to exercise that, and you can start to say, oh, okay, well, I see all of these places. You weren't bad because you said that to your daughter. You weren't bad because you did that from that state of mind. Now you can go back, and if it fits, and if you feel like you need to apologize for that, sure. But that's not something that you're required to do. What you're required to do, if you love yourself, is to love yourself through this and then say, okay, like that's what I did, and I can now move on into the next.
And that
can let
stuff
that go.
doesn't bother me anymore, because I did,
Good.
and I won't apologize for it. I just, I did already. We've had that conversation,
Right.
and under other, whatever else I was connected with, but it wasn't that. It's funny though. It's more the bigger connection for myself to see how some of these things are intertwined. I think that
Yeah.
stuff is interesting,
Yeah.
and something worth paying attention to, because it gives you clues. Like, I feel like I go around sometimes and I play a big game of Blues Clues with myself. Like, it's just like, that's it. Yes, that's what I like. I was like, oh, a clue. And it seems silly, but it's within those contexts. When I make bad jokes, when I make all these things, these nuanced things about it, but as I love myself more, I love that about me, because it gives me another clue. It gives me another insight.
Right.
It's another piece to the puzzle. And then, I can work on healing that part and loving that part and becoming more me, because the more I am me, the more I want to be me, because I love me. And so it's really a beautiful thing. And you don't look at the work the same way when you look at it through that perspective. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's another thing that has to get done. Yes. But when I think about it through that perspective, it's another clue. It's another,
and the work isn't hard. It's so easy.
No, it really is. It's always, once you get through it, then you just have to sit with the uncomfortable.
You have to face it. But the nice thing about what I'm hearing here is, like, what it seems to be saying, this 66, is that person that was young within you is the person that you're becoming. You're becoming more humble. You're willingly becoming a servant to those in your life in this beautiful way, right? Like the master emulates this by always being a servant, inspiring from below, leading from behind. You're inspiring your daughter not by being in front of her, pulling her through. You're inspiring her by lifting her up.
I like that.
Like rivers, so too will the people flow to the master, never feeling oppressed or as if they are in danger. Like that little girl, when she walks in the room, no one's going to feel threatened. The whole world supports her and keeps her in their hearts without a reason or a desire to compete. And that little girl did want to compete. She wanted the control. She knew that she knew better.
Yeah, I didn't want to submit, and now
Right.
I can surrender to that.
Right.
As opposed to I'm not submitting to it, I just surrender.
Right. And then, like, yeah.
And then I could be humble and all those things, and I can be a willing servant.
Yes. Oh, I love you.
Me
That's
too.
so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we talked about this because, like, this is the perfect number for it.
It is. Who knew?
Yeah. I did.
Bye.
All right. Have a good day. Yeah, sometimes when you read through something, so for those of you who read Tao and engage with Tao, sometimes you can't see it. Sometimes it's just a little hidden. I mean, I read the title and knew exactly that this was perfect. And I know this now, but it didn't come to me until after, because of course after I read it, what it exactly said, but perfect for what JK is going through, and we all are going to have those influences. We're going to all have those things that that look different to us, right? Like JK, I said at some point that she, was 30 years or something. And she questioned, well, is that a compliment? And, maybe it just ruffled her feathers a little bit. I don't know. But she was able to experience that. She was able to have that experience. And when it stood out and when it presented itself, she was able to look at it. Julie, how are you?
I'm good.
Ooh. How's it?
Oh, life. Lazy life.
Oh, good.
I'm now at the stage where I've done lazy life now. I'm at the point of inspiration, which is interesting. I've got a couple of days left here in the travel lodge. It's been lovely. It's been really kind of delightful. I've been dreaming of responsibilities now.
It's time.
When I fall asleep at night, I'm like, oh, there's a cat in my dream. Oh, I'm responsible for the cat. Oh my golly, I've missed them so much. I've decided I'm officially a cat botherer. So, we're kind of sat in this room. I was listening. I sent you a message, actually.
I did, Millie.
Yeah. That was the time when we were sat in the car and we were just outside my daughter's house. And every time I used to go to my daughter's house, I used to feel this anxiety building. What was going to be, and then the story would come that she would be angry, she would be fractious. She'd be in a state of like a feeling of insecurity, and she'd want me to pay. She would tax me when I got there, right? So we were sitting in the car. There's me, Millie, I think Sophie was there, and probably Brooke as well. And you read this. I'm sure it's number 66.
Yeah.
And she was in the back of the car, and I watched her just receive. There was absolute silence. There was her eyes were not seeing what was around her at the time. And she's 16 soon. She's 16.
Oh, she's oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Like wow.
And you read this to her probably when she was, what?
14.
12.
It
12,
couldn't have been.
13?
14. Like, I don't know.
14.
Like, but because I guess I've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, now, I mean, I suppose I don't, wow. I can't imagine.
Early days.
She could have been 12.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd been 12, 13. And I remember watching we were in the car, I'd got you on speakerphone and you were reading 66. This was before she decided that she was going to be a football player.
Right, she was doing rugby.
She was doing rugby, yeah. So you remember.
Absolutely.
And it was that and that team that was in her mind. And leading from behind was the most important line to her. That's the title.
Well, she didn't like, I would like if you'd give me a moment to read Stephen Mitchell's 66.
That's the
which
one
is the
she
one.
listened to. Yeah.
Right. So let me read his.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at it from another perspective.
Okay.
All streams flow to the sea because it is lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. If you want to govern the people, you must place yourself below them. If you want to lead the people, you must learn to follow them. The master is above the people, and no one feels oppressed. She goes ahead of the people, and no one feels manipulated. The whole world is grateful to her because she competes with no one. No one can compete with her.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
It is. You know, I love Stephen Mitchell's version. He was one of the translations that I used, obviously, to kind of get mine. But all of them, like, you know, there are definitely similarities because it's the same verse. But, yeah.
This one, you know, she, because as I said, she's quite young, and she absorbed this so deeply that it calmed her soul because she's a middle child.
Yeah.
And she kind of, before she heard this verse, she would compete. All right,
Yeah.
she would compete for position, compete to be heard, compete to be seen, compete to be have meaning in this family. You know, that was quite a noisy, quite fractious, could turn on a drop of a hat in any direction. So she was competing with that. And once she'd heard this verse, with no input from me whatsoever, it was just, would you like to pick a number? She picked a number, and we did that. And she sat in the back of this car, and she absorbed this. And that was an absolute catalyst, because she was the most calm essence and became very observant of all things, very just stood back and allowed. She would be kind. She knew now how she could serve in that family dynamic. She knew how she could serve in the team that she was in, for the sport she was playing.
Because she was the captain.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
And so she knew that, you know, and for this to say, in order to lead, you have to follow your team.
Yeah.
It's not you take your team to where you want to go. You be the pillar that supports your team in getting to where they want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of started to notice by observance qualities in others that created that team. They created themselves.
Right.
You know, and she could be the support. She could serve by encouraging, supporting, sharing. And it's just phenomenal. The change in her was absolutely phenomenal. And it all came from her.
That's right.
It was just wonderful to watch. And she's kept that within her the rest of this time, right up to this day. She is still super awesome. She really is. And I don't have to tell her that. I don't have to say anything at all. I don't have to say, you are so awesome, because when I say that, then it creates like a barrier to her to say, well, actually, I don't feel awesome today.
Right.
You know, I feel crap today. I'm not winning. The team's doing shit. You know, life at home's fucking dreadful. You know, if I tell her all the time how proud I am of her because she's awesome, she's not going to be able to give me the whole thing. She's not going to feel totally at ease with me because she's not going to be able to say shit today.
Right, because
Luckily.
well, one, she's 16, so she's looking at it from a certain perspective. But ultimately,
she does do that. By the way, she does tell me if it's shit,
yeah. It's
which is great.
and she's got to go through that. She's going to have to go through because like, you did. Like how long was your life shit?
Fucking long time. Long time of shit, but it's great shit.
Yeah. And you know, and it's because it's perspective, because it's coming from this place, and it's like she is beautiful. I'm so glad. You know, and you never know what is going to stick. You know,
I know.
And so this is why you have experiences. This is why you go out and have new experiences. And it's not just to have the experience. It's just you do it because it's you know,
it's all encompassing. Yeah, it is. It's all encompassing. And, you know, it's in the moment as well. It's you being part of everything.
Yeah.
And that's just fantastic. But I just definitely wanted to just pop up and enjoy that number again, number 66.
Yeah. And I was glad that we got to look at Stephen Mitchell. I haven't looked at his book in quite some time, and he's the person that really turned me on to the Tao. His translation really turned me on to the Tao. You know, like I'm a little biased, but my translation is better.
I think
but his is good. It's really good.
Yeah. I think the thing is with each one, with each translation that you find, I mean, you might find that you redo yours in time.
Yeah.
Because it becomes applicable to the present time.
Right.
You know,
and I think, you know, his was done in the 80s. This one, mine being done, you know, just last year or the year before in 2023, I wrote it. It's
well, you think how many years
fresh.
ago was the 80s?
40, right? 40
80s, years ago.
Yeah. So like,
and there's a lot of change in that time.
45 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just a kid.
Exactly. And look at what, you know, the
Look
experiences.
at what I am now.
I know. Yeah, awesome, Martin John. But, you know, it's been lovely to have you and your Tao as well in our company, if you like. It's been lovely, and especially with my granddaughter there, who I was talking about, and how she emulated exactly that. In that moment, she did exactly that. Yeah. And wonderful. Did, you know, she was what it was said on the tin, if you like.
Yeah.
She just did it from that childlike way. And it's lovely to see. It's lovely to see that. It taught me something, man, John, that's for sure. It told me
I'm sure, yeah.
Just shut up, Julie.
That's right. You know, like, they're gonna, you know, and that's the thing, like, people, you know, there's that one verse of my Tao that says, you know, people aren't naturally stupid or submissive.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, we think that they are. We tend to think people can't figure it out for themselves. And so we have to tell them, we have to teach them. And then that becomes a problem that we have to solve. And so by solving it, we create a product. And it's like all of these sorts of things. But it's like, really, Millie's going to be good. And she's going to do what needs to be done every step of the way. And you're going to be good doing everything that you need to do every step of the way. And because you're both here, there's opportunities to engage and interact. And all the people that she interacts with, all the teachers, all the coaches, all the teammates, all the opponents, all the things are teaching her about herself. And if she thinks that, and this can happen when you're 16, you think that like this is happening to me, rather than this is happening for me, or this is happening in a way that I can, look at it. Even when JK came up today and she was like, I'm having these feelings, and these, she recognized that there's something to be learned here. But if she didn't, she'd have run from it, and she may have become a victim of it again and again and again.
Yeah, or pushed it back down.
Right.
Tendency to push things back down. Yeah.
Just to deal with it again later, and never having the strength or the ability to actually do that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Martin John.
Oh,
Thank
anytime.
you, JK, for picking number 66.
It's such a
and
good one.
allowing me to join with you in that. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Love you, dude.
Love you.
Yeah. Before I started my show, I picked 68. And so I'm going to move over to 68 now. As we move past 66, we've talked about it quite a bit. And there's a lot in 66. Each and every one of these, there's a lot to be gained. Some of them aren't for you right now. So if there's nothing for you to gain from 66, well, you can just pick another number. Mine for today is Do What You Love to Do, number 68. It reads, great athletes love to play, not win. Great fighters love to fight, not be angry. Great generals love to strategize, not destroy. Great employers love to employ, not be a boss. Great musicians love to play, not perform. They are not attached to identities or outcomes. They simply dance with what they love to do. This is in harmony with Tao. Dancing with what you love to do. And for myself, what I love to do isn't a thing. It's like, okay, I love just being. I love living. I love taking care of my property. I love taking care of the people around me. I love talking about Tao. I love being quiet. I love watching random videos, and when I do, I get sick of it. And so I stop, and then I'm quiet again. And the thing is all of these things ebb and flow. And, today I'm going to check out a toilet, because I'm going to be caring for my house. I'm going to check out a toilet in the back house and make sure that everything is, copacetic, because it's rocking back and forth. I got it on. I got some shims under it right now, so it doesn't rock and crack or anything like that. So it's stable, but I do love being in this position where I can care for it. I do love being in the position of being able to love my property. Now, as somebody who, probably wouldn't have been able to, get a house in any other way than I did. It just happened that here I am. And I love to care for it. I love to spend my day caring for the things I care for. And that's what I love to do. I love to care for the people in my life. I love to care for the things in my life. And I try not to have too many things in my life. And, if it does fall over, if my house falls over, well, so be it. And it's okay too. Hopefully I'm not in it, but if I am, so be that. That's okay too. But doing what I love to do. It's a good question. It's like, well, what do you love to do? What do you love to do right now? Are you going to do what you love to do right now? Or are you going to push it aside and do something else? And so as I go about my day today, I'm just going to be like, okay, I do love to do this, even if it's tiresome, or even if it is, even if, oh, I don't want to do that. I was like, oh, that's going to cause a lot of work. It's just like, well, you like solving a problem. You like being here and present, And as I approach it all, I'm able to just open up and let it all be. And let myself dance with what I love to do. And I do love to care. Even though, and this becomes paradoxical, I don't care. I don't care how it works out. But at its core, like I don't care how JK deals with her issues, but I care about her. I don't care how Julie deals with her day, but I care about her. And I don't care how, my day unfolds, but I care about me and how I invest or interact or engage with the day around me. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is Martin John, and this is Tao of the Day. Cool Beans is coming in.
Good morning, man.
Morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Good. I'm so glad.
What a beautiful day. And in your closing, when you were sitting there talking, you said something a couple of weeks ago that was like a profound understanding, which was, I don't care about your addiction. I care about you.
Right.
Oops. Sorry. Could you hear that?
You're good. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. And when you said, I don't care about your addiction, I care about you. And that is right through the heart and soul of everything, that regardless of your addiction, you are a beautiful person in there, And wow, that was super cool. If you need to get off, by the way, if you're busy.
No, I'm not. I just was like, it was, I was just, like wrapping up, whatever. I'm easy. So go ahead.
Right on. It's pretty funny how you sit there, and I've listened to it, and everybody kind of says it in their own words. Whatever you put out to the universe, when you put it out there, it shows up, the Joe Dispenza, it shows up. The life that you are choosing in your mind to be in is the life that'll show up for you. Wow. Mm-hmm. Absolutely outstanding. And here I am, been thinking, it's like, the direction I've been in is, I want to meet, the companion, the person that wants to travel through life doing cool stuff, regardless of whether you know how to do it or not. And, here I am yesterday, and, it's, okay, well, if you don't ask the universe in the right way, the universe is just going to present. And here I am. Yesterday, I meet this wonderful, wonderful woman who's all of those things. Dude, I should have asked her to be 20 years older as well. So I was like, wow, okay, all right. But all those bits and pieces, but going out and meeting somebody and just meeting people that are in a good place in their life, and, able to be who they are, where they are. And in meeting, sitting there, it's like, wow, we met in the wrong decade here, but, and she stops and she goes, yeah, but that won't prevent a cool friendship and from going out and doing cool things. And it's like, absolutely. So there you have it. There's the universe saying, yeah, here you go, dude. In that, number of the day, I'm looking at 33.
33. You are not manifestation. Regarding the woman that you met, just like that's the thing. We in our mind, we're just like, oh, we want this thing, and then you get it, and then you're like, up. It's like, there's always like, there's something here for you. You know what I mean? And that's so beautiful. And that's really because you're engaging in the manifestation. And here, this is this verse is saying that you are not manifestation. Study others and gain some knowledge. Study yourself and gain deep wisdom. And when it says study yourself, gain deep wisdom, that's so much about like, study how you ask your questions. Study what you're asking for. Study what it is you really want. Controlling others takes strength, but controlling your ego and desires takes power and perseverance.
Woo, that's for sure.
Yeah. Knowing that you have enough gives you wealth. Grasping for money and love forces you to conform. Embrace who you are and stay centered in that. And although you will die, you will not perish. When it says you will die, like that desire that you have for, a woman and, that is in your, and it might not even be a woman. It just might be a companion in your life, whatever, like that, that you can go do cool shit with, whatever. That desire will die when you find it. And it might not be exactly what you think you want. You might not, it's going to show you what you need, but your desire is coming from this, the path that you're on.
Yeah. Yeah. How, and it's kind of crazy, just the way those things come up. There's a part in there that you, can you read that beginning again?
Study others and gain some knowledge. Study yourself and gain deep wisdom. Controlling others takes strength, but controlling your ego and desires takes power and perseverance.
That power and perseverance in that is I like that a lot. And I think that's what a lot of people that are going through their healings are doing. They're figuring out their power and their perseverance in moving forward,
Yeah. And you can, and that's the thing. Once you start really using your power and perseverance rather than will, that's a thing that manifestation and all of this like manifestation work really kind of like it really leans on will. But there is power beyond that will, because you have will to do something because you have a desire. You have a desire to get something. You have a desire to achieve something. You have a desire to acquire something, whatever. And that takes will. That takes this. I have to overcome my mind. I have to overcome my tiredness. I have to overcome my body to get to a place. Like if you want to get over addiction, it's like we talk about it from the space of will. I don't, but that's a common thing. And if you want to really love yourself and again, controlling others takes strength. So you can control others by utilizing your will and get people to praise you. You can control others by actually changing your life around because they will praise you and you will get all of this praise from people. But when you control your ego and desires, other people aren't going to necessarily recognize that for a long time. And when they do recognize it, they might not be able to put it into words. And because you're not getting supported in a conspicuous way, because you're not getting praised for your work, that's why it takes perseverance. You have to keep moving forward with who you are along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, beautiful Taos. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And it's just fun, beautiful to, and everybody. I just love people, and I love what you were saying about, I love you as, it's through everything else, through that, all that you are. Thank you.
That's right. Absolutely. Thanks for coming up. You enjoy your breakfast, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about this woman because, never know. Life is easy.
I'm just on the patio unless you're in a hurry to get off.
No, please.
There's a particular spot that I go to that has an outside fire and patio, and I sit out there and journal. And the other day I was going through, I don't know if I brought this up the other day or not, but I was, had a lot of deep thoughts and in passing conversations on, our childlike nature. I had a wonderful talk last night, on Noom Vibe about our childlike nature. And it was separating the things that, what you had said a long time ago about parents having these kids in this place, that's not the child's choice. That's where they are. And, then listening to a friend who'd mentioned that children are to be seen, not heard. And in all of those directions of adults, the electronic babysitter and everything else, when you push all that stuff aside, there is something inside of little kids, that innocence, and they find such beautiful joy in things. And, that little bit of joy was a profound thing. Anyways, so to get on with that, it's a place that I like to sit out there on the patio and all. And I get there yesterday and the fire's going well, and there's a gal sitting out there with her dog, and, I'm going to sit by the fire. Hey, can I join your fire? And we just start talking. And,
beautiful.
We're adventurers, and she's a marathoner, several years out of a marriage. And one of her things that she's doing is she wants to run a marathon in every state. And wow, really cool. And, the way that she's training and stuff. But she was up here doing some hill running and stuff, and we crossed paths down there. And it's just, out traveling on your own, being who you are, open to the world around you and who you're going to meet. And that's a really beautiful shared thing. What a neat person too. And we talked about work and, how things happen at work and what you do after it, and, everything. Like it was like, wow, holy smokes. And next thing you know, 2 hours has gone by, and, she's like, hey, I got to go back down to Phoenix. And it's like, wow, yeah, geez, sorry to keep you from your travels. But, I made a friend. Made a friend that was like, yeah, let's go do stuff. Let's go float the Verde River, and I'll
Absolutely.
come down and run your favorite McDowell Mountain Trail with you. And how cool. Yeah. Let's meet up in Sedona and, and catch something over there.
And, life is easy, brother.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be hard. That's for sure.
One step at a time.
Right.
I love you. I'm so glad for you. Send her my best. Let her know when she's in Chicago. It's a good marathon. It's flat. It's nice.
Yeah, there you go. Probably cold and windy though.
Well, actually people have, it's been hot. Like over, as global warming kind of takes over, because it's I believe it's in October, the beginning of November. I forget now. But, cause I don't run marathons. But it can be, it's been dangerously hot a couple times over the last number of years. So
it was good last year. It's pretty humid there too.
Because we got the lake. We're right off the lake. So it's like, you run right in front of the lake. So it can be, when it's hot, it can be dangerous. But, and I know that they did have a death a couple years ago. But you're trying, like, that's part of the marathon, like if you want to run 26 miles, like it's not, if there was no, danger or anything, it wouldn't be a big deal. Everyone would do it. There is danger in that. It is a real thing.
Yeah. It's, why is that? Why is it, pushing ourselves against dangers and limits? I know where it is for me, but it's something that people, and you have those who don't want that at all.
Right. You're always fighting entropy, and people do it differently. And, I'm not a marathon runner, so I don't enjoy big things like that. But but I do like to push myself, and I like to push myself, and even, when I work out, I'm like, oh, you know what? If I go if I keep doing this a little bit more, I might throw up. So let's take a step back,
Yep.
and it's good. I like to get to that place, and because it's like, oh, I've been given this body. I want to run it through the paces.
Yeah. I want to keep it healthy.
Yeah.
Do the best that I can with it. So, and that's where we all are in our minds too. Hey, I've been given this beautiful mind. I want to keep it healthy and run it through its paces and share beautiful things.
Absolutely.
Right on, dude. Hey, everyone have a wonderful day.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, life is easy, folks. Love you guys so much. This is Martin John. If you want to work together, if you want to contact me, if you want to talk to me privately outside of Noon Vibe, you can do so through my website. You can set up a 30-minute free call. We can kind of have a chat. My website's martinjohn.com. You can find links to that in my profile. And until next time, I love you, and keep recovering yourself.